Hey everyone, welcome back to Conversational English. I'm Ethan.
And I'm Taylor. Today we're talking about something we all love to do, going to restaurants and dining out.
Absolutely. Whether you're traveling or living in an English-speaking country, knowing how to navigate a restaurant experience is super important.
Right. So we'll walk through everything from choosing a restaurant to paying the bill and share some of our own dining experiences along the way.
Let's start with the first decision, choosing where to eat. Taylor, how do you usually decide on a restaurant?
Oh, it depends on so many things. First, I think about what type of cuisine I'm in the mood for. Italian, Mexican, Chinese, Thai, American.
Mm-hmm. There are so many options.
Exactly. And then I usually check online reviews on apps like Yelp or Google Reviews. I look at the star ratings, read what people say about the food quality and service.
That's smart. I do that too, especially for new places. I also consider whether I want casual dining or something more formal. Like, am I going for a quick lunch or a special dinner date?
Right. And if it's a popular or fancy restaurant, you might need to make a reservation. I learned that the hard way when I showed up at a nice steakhouse without one.
Oh no, what happened?
They were completely booked. The host said, "I'm sorry, but we're fully booked tonight. Would you like to make a reservation for another evening?" So embarrassing.
That happens. Now, I always call ahead or use apps like OpenTable to book a table, especially for weekend dinners.
Good idea. So let's say you've chosen your restaurant and made a reservation. What happens when you actually arrive?
Well, you walk in, and usually there's a host or hostess at the front. They'll greet you and ask, "Do you have a reservation?" Or, "How many people in your party?"
Exactly. And if you have a reservation, you can say, "Yes, we have a reservation under the name Smith for 7 o'clock," or whatever your name and time is.
Right. Then they might ask about table preferences. Would you prefer a booth or a regular table? Or would you like to sit by the window? I always ask for a quiet table if it's available.
I love booth seating. It feels more cozy and private. Once you're seated, the host will give you menus and usually say something like, "Your server will be right with you."
And then comes the fun part, reading the menu. I have to admit, I sometimes get overwhelmed by all the choices.
Same here. Menus are usually divided into sections: appetizers or starters, main courses or entrees, desserts, and beverages.
Mm-hmm. And don't forget about the daily specials. The server will often mention those when they introduce themselves.
Oh, yes, like tonight's special is pan-seared salmon with lemon butter sauce or something like that. I actually love trying the specials because they're usually the chef's favorite dishes.
Good point. Now, when the server comes to take your order, what are some useful phrases to know?
Well, if you need more time, you can say, "We need a few more minutes, please." And if you have questions about the food, don't be shy. Ask, "What do you recommend?" or "What's good here?"
Absolutely. And if you have dietary restrictions or allergies, it's super important to mention those. You can say, "I'm vegetarian. What would you suggest?" Or, "I'm allergic to nuts. Is this dish safe for me?"
That's crucial for safety. I'm lactose intolerant, so I always ask, "Does this have dairy in it?" or "Can you make this without cheese?"
Most restaurants are really accommodating about that stuff. You can also ask about how food is prepared. Is this grilled or fried? Or can I get the dressing on the side?
Right. And when you're ready to order, you can say, "I'll have the chicken parmesan," or "I'd like the Caesar salad, please."
Don't forget about drinks. The server will ask, What can I get you to drink? You might want water, soda, coffee, wine, beer.
I usually start with, "Can I get a water, please?" And then maybe add, "And I'll also have a Coke." What about you?
I'm a coffee person, so I often ask, do you have decaf coffee? Especially if it's later in the evening. Okay, so you've ordered your food. Now you wait.
This is the fun part, conversation time. Whether you're with friends, family, or colleagues, this is when you can really practice your English.
Exactly. And when the food arrives, it's polite to say thank you to the server. They might ask, how does everything look? Or, is there anything else I can get you?
Yes, and if something's wrong with your order, don't be afraid to speak up politely. "Excuse me, I ordered the fish, but this looks like chicken." Or, "I asked for no onions, but there are onions on this."
Good restaurants will always fix mistakes without any problem. Now, let's talk about the end of the meal, paying the bill.
Ah, yes, the check. When you're ready to leave, you can get the server's attention and say, "Can we have the check, please?" Or, "Could I get the bill?"
Right. And if you're dining with other people, you might need to split the bill. You can ask, can we split this? Or, can we get separate checks?
That's super helpful. Now let's talk about tipping because it's different in every country. In the US, it's customary to tip 18 to 20% for good service.
Exactly. Some people find that stressful, but there are apps that can calculate tips for you. You can pay with cash, credit card, or even mobile payments like Apple Pay these days.
So convenient. I personally love trying new restaurants, especially ethnic food. There's something exciting about discovering new flavors and dishes.
Me too. And restaurants are great for practicing English because you interact with different people, hosts, servers, sometimes even other customers.
Absolutely. The key is to be polite, patient, and don't be afraid to ask questions if you don't understand something on the menu. I think we should talk about different types of dining experiences. Like the whole process can be really different depending on whether you're at a fast casual place versus a fine dining restaurant.
Oh, that's such a good point. At a fast casual place like Chipotle or Panera, you might order at the counter and then find your own seat. The language you use is much more direct. I'll have a chicken burrito bowl with rice and black beans.
Exactly. And at fine dining restaurants, there's so much more formality. You might have multiple courses, multiple pieces of silverware, different glasses for different wines. The server might describe dishes in much more detail.
I remember my first time at a really fancy steakhouse. The server said something like, tonight we have a dry-aged ribeye with roasted bone marrow and a red wine reduction, served with truffle mashed potatoes. I was so intimidated.
That sounds amazing, though. And speaking of formal dining, let's talk about business lunches or dinners. Those can be tricky because you're trying to have a professional conversation while also navigating the meal.
Oh, yes? The general rule is to let your guest or the most senior person order first. And avoid messy foods like pasta with lots of sauce or anything you have to eat with your hands. You don't want spaghetti sauce on your shirt during an important meeting.
Ha! So true. Now, what about when your food arrives and you want to comment on it? I love learning different ways to express whether food tastes good or not.
Right. Instead of just saying good or bad, you can be more descriptive. This is delicious. The flavors are amazing. This is perfectly seasoned. Or if something's wrong, this is a bit too salty for me. Or this seems a little undercooked.
And nowadays, we can't forget about takeout and delivery.
Especially after the pandemic, so many people order food to their homes. Apps like DoorDash, Uber Eats, and Grubhub have totally changed how we think about restaurant food.
Totally. When you're ordering delivery, you might need to give specific instructions like, please leave it at the front door, or apartment 3B, second floor. And you can track your order in real time, which is pretty cool.
You know what we should talk about? How to handle problems politely. Sometimes things go wrong. The food is cold, you get the wrong order, or the service is really slow. It's important to know how to complain respectfully.
Absolutely. You can start with, excuse me, to get the server's attention, then explain the problem calmly. I'm sorry, but this soup is cold. Or, I think there might be a mistake, and no, I ordered the salmon, but this looks like chicken. Most servers really appreciate when customers are polite about problems.
That's so important. And speaking of being polite, I think it's worth mentioning cultural differences. In American restaurants, servers often check on you multiple times, asking, "How is everything?" or "Can I get you anything else?" In some cultures, that might seem pushy, but here, it's just good service.
Right. And servers often introduce themselves by name. Hi, I'm Jennifer, and I'll be your server tonight. It's friendly to acknowledge that. Nice to meet you, Jennifer. Making that personal connection can really improve your dining experience.
I love that. And restaurants are actually perfect places to practice small talk. You can comment on the atmosphere. This place has such a cozy vibe. Or ask your dining companions about their food. How's your pasta? Would you recommend that dish?
And here's something I love about some dining cultures. Sharing. It's totally normal to say, would you like to try a bite of this? Or, do you want to share an appetizer? Some restaurants even bring extra plates if you mention you're sharing.
Oh, that's so true. And we haven't really talked about dessert yet. After the main course, the server might ask, "Would you like to see the dessert menu?" Or, "Can I interest you in any desserts tonight?" You can always say, "We're pretty full, but could we see the menu anyway?"
Ha, I do that all the time. Sometimes dessert sounds good after you've been sitting and talking. And if you're celebrating something, mention it. It's my birthday today, or we're celebrating our anniversary. Many restaurants will bring a complimentary dessert, or at least sing happy birthday.
That's such a great tip. I think the key takeaway is that dining out is really a social and cultural experience, not just about the food. It's a chance to practice conversation, learn new vocabulary, and experience local customs. Plus, food is something everyone can talk about.
Absolutely. And think about all the vocabulary we've covered today. Reservation, host, server, menu, appetizers, entrees, specials, dietary restrictions, check, tip, takeout, delivery. These are all essential words for any English learner living in an English-speaking country. Great advice, Taylor. Well, that wraps up today's episode of Conversational English. We hope this helps you feel more confident about your next restaurant experience.
Next week, we'll be discussing shopping and asking for help in stores, another essential skill for everyday life. Until then, keep practicing.
Don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for listening, and bon appetit, everyone.